a recipe for chive soup. So the chives have exploded into life in the garden because the weather's nice and warm, and I've had to cut them back because I want them to carry on growing. Otherwise they get a little bit too big and a little bit too woody and turn into more like a spring onion type of thing. So I thought what I'll do is I'll make some soup. I'm seeing my sister tomorrow because we're allowed to go out for walks and things. So I'm going to make some soup and I'll give her some soup as a gift because it was always nice to take a gift. I don't think she'd be bringing me a gift, but you know, I want to make some soup, so it's a good opportunity to make some soup and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to use the recipe that I did for the wild garlic soup as a base for this. So similar kind of quantities, on the understanding that there's not the chives and the wild garlic are the similar type of consistency. They're not particularly. There's not a lot to them. Similar kind of strength in flavour. So we'll kind of go on that kind of idea. So the recipe off the top of my head was, if I can remember, 500 grams of onions. It was 100 millilitres of milk. It was 3 stock cubes, and it was 100 grams of the wild garlic leaves. So we'll use 100 grams of the chives, and then it was 600 millilitres of water. I won't put all the water in one go. What we'll do is I'll put in half the water to cook the onions, and then we'll kind of make the soup together, and then we'll see about adding how many stock cubes we're going to add, and how many chives we're going to add as well. We need to chop the chives because they're a bit, even though they're tender, they're still a bit woody. So if we try and puree up that, it's not going to puree particularly very well. So I'm going to go through them all. We'll pull out any kind of dried bits like that, and any kind of scraggly ends, any flower pods, they can all go. So we'll have 100 grams worth of actual chopped spring onion, but it's not spring onion, chives. It's free because it's out in the garden. You know what I mean? And the best thing to do with things like chives is to buy a pot of chives from the supermarket. If they're on special offer and cheap, even better, and just plant them in the garden. Every year they come back, and they grow really well in pots. Just water them now and again, and they are kind of quite brilliant. And I remember there was something else as well. So we're going to chop them, and then it'll puree down a lot easier. I'm going to use the hand blender because I don't like having to wash all the big liquidized type of thing. Yeah. So before I forget, I made some stock with the lots of vegetable trimmings that would ordinarily go on the compost. I actually made some stock out of those. There is a video, probably video before this one. So I'm going to use that as actually the water for the stock. So there is flavour in there, but there's no kind of salt element. There's no kind of seasoning in it, although there is flavour. So we're still going to use the stock cubes as flavour. So we're not going to be able to get away with using less stock cubes than because we're using this stock, because it's not seasoned as this stock. It's just basically flavoured water. Oh, I've got this itchy nose. So we'll use that as the water instead of just plain water, so we'll get more flavour that way. Not necessarily, you don't have to make this stock to make this soup. You can just use water and it will work fine, but using this stock, it'll just taste that just a little bit better. So anyway, that's that. I'll do some chopping, I'll do some prepping, I'll do some cooking, and we'll come back at the stage where the onions are cooked and the chives are chopped, and it's just a case of cooking things, putting things together, pureeing, and weighing out how much soup we've got and all that kind of stuff. The fun bit instead of me waffling bit. So onions are cooked, and we have got. I put 500 millilitres of the homemade stock in there. 500 millilitres of water was fine. You don't need to make the homemade stock. So it's boiling. We'll put in. I think we'll probably have to put in some more stock, but we'll see how we go first. So we'll certainly need a couple of stock cubes, even though the homemade stock, I explained about the saltiness. So we're basically using the stock cubes to season. It's like a uniform way of kind of saying, also a universal way of kind of seasoning, that you can kind of go a stock cube is a stock cube type of thing. So you can do it if you want to make the soups. If you want to make them, you can just, a stock cube is a stock cube. And I think you'd probably kind of be quite horrified the amount of salt that you have to put into things to make them taste really nice. But salt's not that bad for you as it used to be. Everything changes, doesn't it? So 100 grams worth of chives here. I've picked out all the nasty bits and chopped them. I've washed them and chopped them, so they'll puree down a lot easier. All we really need to do is we just need to heat them through, and that'll be enough to cook them. So 100 grams of chives. I mean, don't make this soup if you're going to be buying chives. If you make it if you've got them in the garden, and I'm sure it will work for other herbs as well. So if you wanted to make a parsley soup, it would work for that as well. Similar kind of ratio. So, but only use it if you've got it in the garden. I mean, don't go by all means, don't go out and buy 100 grams worth of chives to make this soup, because that's going to be quite expensive. I mean, I'm only making this soup because I've got chives in the garden. Otherwise, I think that's kind of quite expensive. So, bring them up to the boil to cook the chives. Don't want to cook them too much, because we just want to cook them, and we want to keep that nice vibrant green kind of colour. And we'll put in the milk now, I think. Yeah, we'll put in the milk now. So we'll boil that, and then we'll see how we go. So just bring it back up to the boil. That'll be enough to cook the chives, and then we'll give it puree, and then we'll see if we need to add any more stock cube, see if we need to add any more liquid. So the boring part of the video where it's just watching a pan come back up to the boil. You just got to be a bit careful when you add milk to things, and also like cream as well. So single cream has a habit of splitting if you heat it, so you have to use like double cream. But you don't have to, because we're going to puree it. You can kind of get around that. So single cream is fine. So if you had some single cream in a house that was kind of almost kind of coming to the end of its life, that you kind of think it's not really suitable for anything else, stick it in the soup, boil it, puree it, and it'll make your soup even nicer. Don't kind of waste it. Right, so that's boiled enough. Spoon. Now we'll put the spoon there. So will that stretch? Just excuse the noise. Yeah, that's definitely going to need some more liquid in. I reckon, well, we'll go for 100 to start off with. So I boiled the stock. I normally have the kettle boiled, but I didn't want to put the stock in the kettle. That would have been ridiculous, so I just boiled it on the back of the stove. So that's 100 millilitres. So that in there. What's the consistency like on that? Let's get a spoon. Yeah, I don't think it wants to be anything than that. We'll give it a taste. Yeah, another stock cube. Nice. Nice. I was thinking, should we let that down a little bit more with a little bit more stock, but I don't think we need to. That will be done enough, so It's plastic. We don't bang plastic on metal because it'll crack the plastic. So we bang on a hand just to get rid of those bits that don't get washed. We'll give it I'll get another spoon out. Cross contamination and all that. That's delicious. In fact, you could probably get away with more chives in than that. Probably. Yeah, probably get away with more chives in than that. Shall we put those chives in and see? Yes. We've got some more chopped chives. Let's just weigh these, what we've got. And then we'll see if we can get away with more. So, let's tear it off. I think that'll be what? Oh, that's rubbish. There's going to be like 10 grams. I was thinking if there was 25 that would be better. Yeah, we'll stick those in. We'll stick them in. And we'll wash that. That'll be fine. Let's see what it's like with another 10 grams of chives in it. That'll do. No, I shouldn't be really using that, but anyway. Yeah, it's nice. So I reckon you could actually go up to 150 grams worth of chives. That's 110, so I reckon you could go right up to 150 grams, maybe even 200 grams. And I think that would be, it wouldn't overpower it. It's kind of quite a luxurious soup, but it's kind of got like that background of oniony chives, so it's very nice. So yeah, I think what was the recipe? Did we put in? I think there'd be 700 millilitres of stock, well, water that's gone in that, and 3 stock cubes. And then what chives you've got. So I'm going to say a bare minimum of 100 grams worth of chives, and you get a good flavour. Or the same with parsley. So like parsley or chives, 100 grams, but you could go right up to 150 grams. Depends how much you've got in the garden, how much you want to chop and how much soup you want to kind of make. But I reckon 100 grams is the bare minimum amount of chives that you could get away with. 150 would be better. And let's see what kind of, how much stock we've made, how much soup we've made. So, still a bit of soup in there. So we've made 1.1 litres. That's not bad, is that? So, you can't, with green soups like this, like with pea or with the nettle soup or the wild garlic soup or this chive soup or a parsley soup, you kind of have to make it there and then. You can't, I wouldn't chill that down and then reheat it, because it's going to lose all that vibrant kind of colour and the kind of flavour to it as well. So you kind of have to make it. But what you can do, if you're going to make things for the meal last minute, you can have like the onions cooked and the stock cubes in them already, and the milk in there already, and have that ready to go and hot. That won't matter if you cool that down and then reheat it again, and then add your chives in the last minute. Boil for a minute, give them a puree, and then you've got the soup. So it's relatively kind of quite easy, and that's the best way you're going to get it. You can freeze it like that, but as you saw, it was that easy to make. Kind of faff, but faff-free really. Well, not that much of a faff, or not loads of a faff, but you know, in the grand scheme of things, it was pretty straightforward. Make it last minute, and there you go. So if you've got those chives in the garden, that's what you can do with them. Delicious soup. It'll be cheap. And yeah, and you won't be able to buy anything that tastes as good as that. Nothing out of a tin or a packet or a jar or anything is going to taste as good as that. So there you go. Herb soup, but this herb happened to be chive.